Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It's Game Reviews with my host, Vasili Gianarakos. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing well, Yariv. We're back for a little bit of a different episode this time around, not the usual podcast format, but we got some game reviews, game recaps of the Flyers rookie series with the Rangers. It's good to have hockey back and some hockey to watch to discuss. So I'm excited to kind of break the games down here. How about yourself, Yariv?
I'm feeling good, man. I mean, we did have some hockey to watch, which has been good. We'll say overall a little bit disappointing. We'll go through that. But it was good to watch, right? And the one caveat for everybody who watches these rookie games, like we kind of prefaced it prior, these games are sloppy. They are not a reflection of overall potential and all that. And we'll go through some details on that as we go through this. But it's good to just see a little bit of feedback, see where kind of the team is a little bit. But I do want to put a caveat into that as we go kind of through this. Do not take these games as a definitive of anything, including team success. And when you see players around the league, outside of Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli's games, which obviously they lit it up, most of it is not really a reflection of the guys of any of these players' NHL potential, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of is what it is. So before we get started, just want to remind people to like, subscribe, and share our stuff out. Hit the notification button for notifications. Again, all of that is extremely helpful for us. And obviously leave comments below. We clearly read them. They have been amazing. Again, agree, disagree, doesn't matter. We love it. Feel free to vocalize any portion any part of your opinions. It is all welcome here. Even if you vehemently disagree with everything we say, we have zero problems with it. In fact, kind of like it because it makes me kind of rethink, and Vasili as well. It makes us rethink maybe some of the stuff that we're saying, and we're always open to that. So, this is definitely community driven a lot. So I'll go through the two different starting lineups for both games. The Flyers played the Rangers rookies in the games. I'll go through the Flyers lineups, and then we'll dig in. We'll give you guys our general overall thoughts of the weekend. We're not going to break it down by which one game or the other, but we'll go through like the players, right? And we'll give you some feedback on the players of what we saw. Again, a lot going on in these games, so it's kind of hard to nitpick each single one of them. But first game's lineup, the Friday night game, the lines were Alexis Gendron on the first line with Elliot Denoyer in the middle, Tyson Forrester on the right, Brandon Fury on the left side, Denver Barkey in the middle, Bobby Brink on the right, Matt Brown, who did move up to the top line at the end of that game, on the third line with Jonathan Fouchon and Samu Tuomala on the right-hand side, Alex Ciernik on the left on the fourth line, Jacob Gauthier in the middle, and Zaid Wisdom on the right. The defense was Adam Yinning and Oliver Bonk on the right side as the top pairing, Will Zmolik and Ethan Sampson on the second unit, and Mason Millman and Carter Sotheran on the right-hand side, and Nolan Mayer was the starting goaltender. For game two, and I had this open up and it reset on me. Game two, the lines were different. Alexis Gendron, Elliot Denoyer, and Bobby Brink were the top line. Matt Brown moved up to the second line to start the game with Denver Barkey, Tyson Forrester on the right. Third line, Alex Ciernik, who saw his way up as well, with Brendan Fury moved to the middle and Samu Tuomala on the right. Jonathan Fouchon on the left side, Jacob Gauthier and Zaid Wisdom on the fourth line. Also a note that J.R. Avon is injured. We were hoping to get a look at him, which is kind of a shame, especially if you look at the way the teams played. He is out 4 to 6 weeks. Do you know the exact injury? I forgot to look it up.
Yeah, so it's a PCL sprain in his left knee. And it said,
Okay.
I think it was reported that he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks, and that means he'll probably miss the main camp as well, the entirety of that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, for sure. And I really wanted to see Avon, so that sucks. And then the defense, Emil Andre got his first game in there with Helge Grans on the right-hand side. We kind of told you, there was a good chance that was going to happen, though. Again, I really wish I got to see Andre and Bonk, and in retrospect, I think it was right. Will Zmolik on the second unit, Sam Sedley on the right-hand side with him, Mason Millman on the bottom unit with Matteo Mann, who also got injured in that game, and Carson Bjarnason was the starting goaltender. All right, so a lot happened in these games. Overall, I think, let's be honest, Vasili, we were a little bit disappointed. And, I don't think it was so much that we're disappointed with all of the players and that everybody played poorly, but tell me if you agree with this or not, but I just thought the team really lacked structure. And again, I expected that, but even
Yeah.
compared to the Rangers rookies, they were just more organized. Like, I don't think the Flyers actually got outplayed all the time. Like, they had a good amount of possession, they had a good amount of shots, but the shots themselves, a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of missing the net, a lot
Yeah.
of getting out muscled by the Rangers players. And that's why you saw somebody like Zayd Wisdom actually have maybe the best game out of all the forwards. Matt Brown played as well, but it seemed like the more physical players kind of showed up. And somebody I thought really was going to show up in a physical game, Tyson Forrester, did not. He had a couple good shots and all that. It's not like he played horrendous, but tell me if you agree with it. But do you agree with that sentiment that it was kind of like they just didn't look ready to play these games as the Rangers? And we saw that with the first goal in the second game where Bjarnason, I would say it's the only bad goal he really gave up, but it was a pretty bad goal in the very beginning. It was his first pro look, right? He's pretty
Yeah.
young. He's 18 years old, but they just didn't look ready.
Yeah, I would say a lack of readiness, Yariv, along with a inability to push back at certain times. Like I think the Rangers rookies had them pinned down in their own end quite a bit to start the second game off, and there was even pieces in the first game where the Rangers rookies had them pinned or had the Flyers pinned in their end, and ended up scoring due to that. I believe one of the goals in the first game, I think it was the third goal. So yeah, I think overall, I mean, the team could have definitely played better and played more cohesively. I think there wasn't a lot of sustained like offensive time other than, some of the power play work. And I think they did play pretty decent on the power play. I believe they had two power play tallies. Denver Barkey gets two power play assists. Those secondary assists, it's still something to note. And I think with the rookie game, it's not even about really the final scores, right? Like they lose 4-2. And then they lose
3-1.
what is it, 3-1, yeah, in the second game. And it's not
But
necessarily the
both
fact,
empty netters, I believe.
yeah, to
Yeah.
end off, exactly. So it's not necessarily like a bad thing that they lost, because like we're saying, right, these are rookie games. You're not expecting them to be the most structured games. But I think what it is you didn't really see a lot of the Flyers players stand out that you would typically have hoped for. Like,
Exactly.
especially some of the older players too. Like we
Yeah.
know that some of the guys that were just freshly drafted, this is really their first pro experience. It could be, an overwhelming thing for them in certain situations. But to see like guys like a Forrester, Desnoyers, Brink not really have much of an impact, I think that's something that is definitely, you know, something we should keep an eye on going forward for sure. Because if any of those guys are going to have a chance to make the main roster, they're going to have to step it up considerably based off of their performances over these two rookie games here. I think one thing to mention is that, for Forrester and Desnoyers and Brink, these are likely their last rookie games. So it could be a sense of, okay, we're just trying to shake the rust off. We're not trying to really go all like full out and essentially, give it our 100% maximum all in this rookie outing. But you'd like to see when the team's down, these guys, step up and kind of show more of a drive to take the game back by the horn instead of letting the Rangers control majority of both games, I would say.
Yeah, man. And Lappy even mentioned this where, he was saying it looked like my veterans were trying to do too much.
Yeah.
And, I do agree with that, but there's so many times that they just missed the net.
Yeah.
They like came in on a good shot, missed the net. Came in on a good shot, missed the net. And to be honest with you, I don't think that that's what these players are.
No.
They looked rusty. They looked like they weren't ready to play as a cohesive unit. And this is
Yeah.
a team sport. And while you're individually talented, if you guys can't rally together and
Yeah.
hit those passes, like they would do a lot of work, right? Like they would be working along the boards. They'd be fighting for the puck. They would get the puck back. Like it wasn't that they were always getting beat on every
No.
play or anything like that. It wasn't like you watch those games and you're like, oh my God, they're getting
Yeah.
destroyed. It was more of just like, come on, stop shooting yourselves in the foot. Like you missed the shot. You're not in the right position. You fumble the puck. You missed it at the point. And we mentioned veterans, but even like Helge Grans, like he's got AHL experience, and I didn't see him really step up. And he's supposed to be a bigger player. And it felt like a lot of these guys where I think personally, I think Lappy expected a lot out of Grans and Emil Andre, especially in the second game.
Yeah.
And, you saw some of it.
They were
But
solid, but
yeah, but again, like they were solid, but it was a game where you really wanted to showcase your skills.
Yeah, especially when they're playing a lot of players that are likely younger than them potentially with the
Right.
Rangers rookies. You want to see some of the older guys take more of a command and take charge. Like I think Andre and Grant specifically, they were decent in their own end. Not too many like egregious mistakes or giveaways or anything like that. Some good first passes, but you want to see them take more control and use their skills in a more dynamic manner that's conducive to like producing offense because those both of them are known to be more offensive type defenseman versus stay at home. Like Andre, he had a couple nice stretch passes that I keyed in on, but other than that, not much that really stands out.
Right.
I think it's interesting too for Desnoyers and Forster. I mean, the first game they played together and they did show some chemistry, which is understandable considering they played together a lot last season. But you do see some of the rust, right? Like where Forster's wide open on some power plays for one timers, getting good shots that were saved, but then also some misses where you wonder, like, if there's a couple more weeks of training camp under his belt, is that hitting the net instead, right? So
Yeah, where it felt like, again, I don't want to compare them to Fantilli and Bedard because there's nobody in these games that are on their level, right? The
yeah,
Flyers don't have Cutter Gauthier and the Flyers don't have Matvey Michkov, playing in these games. So, we don't have our very top rookies, but, Tyson Forrester, you look NHL ready last year. You looked exceptional. And, you thought that would kind of translate into this game where maybe he could at least come up with one big goal when the team really needed it. And like you
yeah.
said, Elliot Desnoyers, this is another guy. These are big time players at the AHL level, and they really didn't look that way. And same with Bobby Brink. Like, yeah, he made some nice plays. He won some battles
Had a
along the
breakaway, I
board.
believe.
Yeah, but that's the problem. He didn't score. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's like these moments where they even had opportunities and they were coming in on 2-on-1s. They didn't bury it or they fumbled the puck a little bit and they kind
Didn't
of slowed.
execute.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like it was there. Now, on the good side of that, there were some players that stuck out. I thought Alex Ciernik looked
Yeah.
really sharp, and you kind of notice this pattern. The players who really needed to prove themselves seemed to have the better games, right? Like Denver Barkey, he definitely stuck out. He's clearly very young. He's nowhere near NHL ready, but he got some points on the board. He was really scrappy. Alex Ciernik moved his way up the lineup. I was actually very happy with his performance overall. I think he moved up the lineup for a reason. He started on the fourth line in the first game and then obviously moved his way up because he was consistently getting opportunities and he showed that he had skill. And then we all know Zayd Wisdom, right? And Wisdom was really looking to rebound after last year, a guy who was sent to the ECHL, a guy that surprisingly went to the ECHL, but he showed against a team that was more physical than the Phantoms. He stuck out because he played his game north
Yeah.
to south, physical. Every opportunity he had to put the puck on net, he did. He didn't give up on any plays. He was active with his stick, and it showed. And it really showed. And the coaching staff mentioned him several times as being that guy. And I think that's what we expected from the other veterans. And we really only saw that from Wisdom, who was, I think, like you said several times, right, more motivated to kind of prove that he is ready. And for those of you who you see the Bedard hat trick, you see the Fantilli 5-point game, and don't get me wrong, that Bedard shot that's been going around. I mean, that guy's
Crazy.
like,
The release is
oh my
nuts. Yeah.
God, he is. Oh my God, to die for this guy can play. But I will say, if you guys remember years back, it's been quite a while. But when the Flyers drafted JVR, he played in the rookie game. He had 4 goals in the rookie game, right? And you see that, and you're like, oh my God, this guy's gonna light up the NHL. It didn't necessarily happen. He was a good player in those rookie years, but he wasn't. He didn't come out destroying it. Now, I do anticipate Fantilli and Bedard, obviously Bedard, and I anticipate Fantilli and Bedard to be in those Calder, obviously Bedard's
Conversation.
probably going to win.
Yeah.
And Fantilli will be in the top 5, right? Top 3, most likely in voting by the end of the year. But it's not a reflection of where they are
Yeah.
during the season, right? Like the AHL season is going to be very different than these rookie games.
Yeah, I think it's definitely disappointing to see the established players, especially the players who had considerable amount of time on the Phantoms last season and even before that, not really step up and take command of these games, especially when the team is down. And that's who probably LaPerriere is looking to, right? A leader on the team, older player to kind of take charge and command themselves. But just to go over some of the players, who I thought stood out to me
Sure.
and in a
Please.
positive manner. Zayd Wisdom obviously was one. I just thought like he's very tenacious on the forecheck, doing all the things he needed to do. Looked quick, getting to pucks and challenging in board battles. Obviously, the really nice goal that he scored in the second game, and that was a really nice play. In general, right? I believe Grons gets the puck up to Matt Brown.
Looked
Brown
good.
and
Yeah.
Barkey have a nice give and go in the neutral ice, and then Barkey gets it over and feeds it over to Wisdom, who's kind of cutting into the middle through the slot, and then he pots it past the Rangers goalie. So it's nice to see him get rewarded, obviously, just for a player who really showed that he wanted to make a difference and kind of make an impact and show that, hey, like last season for me, even though it was a disappointing go of it, obviously it was a one-off, and that's not something that's going to be happening often. And we have to remember with Wisdom, right? He had that shoulder injury, so I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
factor in his performance last season. And
Especially
then
for a very physical player, right? Using
yeah,
your shoulder and your upper body a lot.
especially too in those board battles and just forechecking. And you have to remember, right, in the 2020-21 season, that COVID year, he had the chance to play in the AHL actually, because the OHL allowed their players to do so. And in a 28 game sample size, he had 7 goals. So I mean, I think just looking at that, there's potential for him to be a chippy 15
Absolutely.
goal type guy that can play on your third line and be a really like effective grinder for you and grinding down other teams and getting to loose pucks. So I think it's great to see Wisdom kind of show himself that he should be back on track moving forward this season. I'm interested to kind of see his full season with the Phantoms this year. Some other guys that I thought that really stood out to me was Alexis Gendron
Yeah,
actually.
let's talk about him.
Um, he just looked really quick all over the
Very.
ice, like super speedy, and obviously in today it's NHL, right? Like speed really can kill, and speed can really be a factor in a lot of teams' offenses. So I think having a guy like him who can show that speed is obviously a positive for the Flyers, and just his hockey sense in general. Like
Mm-hmm.
I personally thought throughout the first game, even the second game as well, a lot of the little plays, he was just always in the right position for me. Like when I was watching him, and it was like, okay, so he should, be skating over there to kind of like open himself up to potential pass or potential scoring chance. He was always finding those soft areas of the ice where he'd be entering the offensive zone and then kind of losing other defenders and being open. Though he didn't get a lot of passes with those openings to try to capitalize on scoring chances, and that can happen too when you have an offense that has not really played together whatsoever. Most of these guys
Yeah,
probably haven't played
it
together,
showed.
so you see a lack of cohesion. But I think it's really encouraging to see Gendron speed and his tenacity like through that speed. He had a couple decent breaks where he had some shots cutting into the net with his speed. So that was good to see. I'm really interested to see him with the Phantoms. Like I think he could be a real point producer for them this season.
And
So
were you surprised that he was immediately a top line player? Because I like in this group, I was expecting to him kind of to be in that similar spot of like Alex Yernick and
yeah,
Samu Tuomala, right, who played more of a third line role. But
I agree.
Gendron, no, man, I feel like they really recognize that, hey, this guy, at least at the lower level, has some real offensive tools. And it
Yeah.
does kind of make me think like maybe this kid will be a top line player for the Phantoms this year, especially by the end of the season. Like,
I
is he going to develop into that?
I think that's what the Flyers' goals probably are. Like they see the way that he played in the QMJHL. He had over 50 goals. I think he had like 55 goals in 53 games or something.
Yeah,
So a
over a
guy,
goal game. Yeah.
yeah, so a guy who's scoring at that rate, I think they kind of realize that, hey, you know what, we need to put him in position to succeed. And starting him out on the third line, for example, might not be the best way to do that. Whereas you have him with Desnoyers and with Forster, you're putting him with your ultimately your most talented guys and
Yeah.
seeing what he can do with there. I think Gendron's a guy who he needs the skill around him to
Mm-hmm.
obviously help him
He's a
succeed.
playmaker.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think with that, it should be interesting. I mean, he can make plays with his speed just by opening himself up, and obviously has a really, really nice shot. We didn't see a lot of his shot, but I think with the Phantoms, we will, see him kind of rip it
Yeah.
a lot more often. So
Yeah, I think it gives Lappy a lot to think about kind of going into the season, right? Like I think it's good in the sense because, if they came out flying and all that, maybe they come out with a little too much hubris. You would have want to see it. That typically the Flyers have actually done really well in these rookie
Yeah.
games, and as you can see, it doesn't actually do anything for the regular season. The one thing I still kind of stick. I get why Emil Andre played with Helge Grans. It makes complete sense. They play together. They're both Swedish. They know each other. But I really do think, and I think they try to balance the defense out a little bit more. But I really do think it was a missed opportunity to play Emil Andre with Oliver Bonk. Not because it was a bad decision to do what they did, and I get why they did. Those were probably their one and two best defenders in this rookie camp, right? And they recognize that and playing them as such. But it would have been cool to see that because those are two guys that are NHL players, right? Like they easily project to be NHL players. And I look at the size of Oliver Bonk, right? The way he plays the game and the skill of Emil Andre. I thought it would have been a really good balance. And Helge Grans didn't really stick out. He didn't play poorly. I'm not going to
No.
knock the guy, but I wanted to see that in one of the games, and I thought that was a little bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think for both of them and that pair in general, I think since they've played together before, you would have liked to see more chemistry, more of them kind of activating off of one another. Like if one guy sitting back to pass the puck up in transition, then you have Andre, kind of moving up the ice to be that trailer or look to join the offense, right? Because ultimately it is a rookie game, and I mean the Flyers were down in a good amount of both, so you would have liked them to see or like to see them take some chances, right? And at least push the pace more, try to create more offense. I think one other guy that
Yeah,
really stood out for me as well, obviously, is Matt Brown.
yeah,
I mean, he scores the goal in the first game, gets an assist on Wisdom's goal in the second game. I just thought in general, I mean, he was a pretty big scorer at BU. I believe he outproduced Jay O'Brien, which is kind of ironic that the Flyers let Jay O'Brien go, receive a second round pick, then invite Brown to this camp who produced at a higher rate than O'Brien anyway. So technically, if you want to sign him, it's almost like you're really losing nothing and kind of making up that pick essentially, which is interesting.
he is
But
he is 24 years old, so he's a little
yeah,
bit older than some of the players.
he's a little bit older, so I mean, you'd expect a guy like him to play better than some of these guys in a setting like this with a lot of younger players. But I think he did a really good job of impressing and just showing a lot of his skills. Like he has a very quick release, which I noticed. I mean, with the goal, and I think just his tenacity in general. Like he was on the puck a lot in the forecheck. Engaging in board battles, but also finding some openings as well to create some scoring opportunities. And obviously Leperrier sees it, moves him up to the first line, switches him out with Gendron in that first game, who I don't really think deserved that, to be honest. I thought he was played pretty well and probably should have stayed on the first line, but they obviously want to give Brown more of a look as he doesn't have a contract.
Yeah.
At this point in time, so I wonder, if that'll be somebody to keep out an eye out on, just in terms of potential ELC. As we get
Yeah.
into training camp and this all kind of comes together here. But yeah,
Yeah, I think he definitely raised some eyebrows with his play, and I do think it was a good opportunity for him and a lot of other guys. And we said that, right? Like some of the guys that are kind of more the question marks seem to kind of stand out a little better. We're ripping on Tyson Forrester a little bit, but I don't think Forrester played poorly, right?
no,
Like
I
he did play hard. He played
yeah,
strong along the walls, but when he had the puck, it wasn't a lot of offensive created beyond,
was a
a
lot of
few
pop.
good shots, right? It was really just an
Yeah,
opportunity to shoot, and we kind of know that. We know what kind of game he has. It's not that I anticipate that'll be, but we're expecting this guy to make the team out of camp, and if he comes, with just the way he was playing in these games, obviously he won't be making the team out of camp. So
yeah,
vastly too early to predict any of that, but he's going to have to ramp it up, and so are the other guys. And I'm pretty sure that those are going to be the conversations with Lappy. That there's going
yeah,
to be stuff that they have to clean up over the next few weeks as they have 1 week until training camp starts with the NHL pros, and things are going to ramp up. And it's always funny, man. I watch these games, right? These rookie games. And I remember even when I was younger, like, you watch the rookie games and then you see when like you hit the NHL level players and even the ones that people think
the
are trash
difference.
or
Yeah,
whatever. And oh my God, you see the
Speed,
difference, right?
execution of the
Just
game,
yeah,
just
the
the pace.
execution, the quickness of the passes,
Yeah,
the fact that they hesitate a lot less. Like I guarantee you could have taken the worst player from the Flyers. You could have taken any one of the forwards that be playing for the Flyers this year, and they would have stuck out of this group easily. And that is, and it's something that people should be remembered. Like these guys are all kids; they're all extremely raw. And Bobby Brink included. And he's actually, I would say, my biggest disappointment, and not so much that I think he played terrible. Obviously, he had that one, he tried to glove it at the end there in the second game, and it kind of went off his glove and into the net to kind of ice it. And it's kind
yeah,
of a downer. But he's a guy I really want to see drive play. He is our best playmaker, in my opinion, at the lower level. And
agreed.
I really wanted to see him do that. Now, he wasn't playing with Tyson Forrester, but he was playing with Alexis Gendron. He was playing with Elliot Denoyer at times, right? Like, this is a guy I just thought would drive more offense, and he did some, but not enough. And I even saw Lappy's like response to it was kind of like, nah, and I think Bobby Brink just has so much more to give than that. And it's disappointing because I think the Rangers really simplified their game a lot more. And I think that's why they won. They didn't do anything too fancy. They took the puck to the net. They did a lot of
North
wraparounds.
South. Yeah,
Yeah, they won physical battles and they played a more NHL ready game. And I think that's why they won both games.
I agree. Yeah, that's a great assessment. I think they played more of a team game and they look just more cohesive in general due to that. Like you're saying, more north-south play. I would say Brink is probably, that's a safe bet as well for my disappointment, at least for this specific two games. Like it's not that he necessarily played bad. He had a couple chances, but I just think based off the injury last season, there's a lot to prove for him because he didn't, have the greatest return to AHL action. In terms of just producing points. So I think there's a lot to prove for him to Flyers management. He's a Fletcher draft pick. That regime is long gone at this point, so he might not have all the opportunities he might have had going forward just under a new regime in general. And just due to the fact that, especially on the right side with wingers, the team is very deep. So I just think, with his skill set, you would have wanted him to see create a lot more plays.
Yeah.
And I just didn't see him create too much out there. I think a good takeaway in general, Yariv, is just a lot of the older, Phantoms players in terms of this rookie game that you would have the potential to make the Flyers. I think just need to step up in general as we proceed into regular training camp main camp beginning on September 21st on Thursday. So that's probably Tyson Forster, Elliot Desnoyers, Bobby Brink. You'd like to see them ratchet it up a level here. I wonder, with this being rookie games, if they're treating this as more of a warm up in a sense. It's not something you want to see ultimately, but Tortorella camps can be grueling. So
It's going
that's
to
definitely
be,
something
yeah.
to factor in. So I'm interested to see them, once actual training camp starts, if you do see the intensity from those three kind of reach a different level than we saw this past weekend. And one last thing I just wanted to point out
Sure.
in terms of positives, I thought Oliver Bonk, he played really
Played
solidly.
steady. Yeah. Very
Yeah,
steady.
no, there wasn't any really
Especially for being
egregious.
18. I'm sorry to cut you off,
That's
but for being like
yeah,
the youngest defenseman of the group.
he looked very calm, very poised. And those were, I mean, when he got drafted, those were some of the things that were pointed out in his game, that he looks like he's always very calm, in control, able to make, the simple play. Isn't always like rushing for that home run pass, stretch pass down the ice. If it's not there, he's not going to just, try to go for it for the sake of it. He's going to reassess and say, hey, okay, let's go for the safer pass this time around, and then we can go for a potential stretch pass later on. But I thought he did have some nice stretch passes as well, and just in general, he looked in control of his game. Didn't look out of place, which for an 18-year-old defenseman at times, stepping up a level could be a common thing. So I think that's really a great thing to see for the Flyers, and it seems like he's a very mature, player for his age,
Definitely.
playing defense. And I think that's a great thing to see, because ultimately, I mean, if you look at the Flyers first round, all the hype around Michkov, but Bonk does kind of get forgotten a little bit here. So I think
Totally.
it's good to see that, he should be poised to have a big season here with London, and hopefully continue his development in the right path and right track.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think, evaluating kind of the rookies. And again, we didn't see all the rookies. It's something to keep in mind. NCAA players were obviously not involved in this. And we know Michkov was not involved in this as well. right?
Yeah.
So you were not looking at all of the Flyers rookie crop. We actually have been tending to take more players from the NCAA than ever, especially outside of last season. We were very heavy in NCAA, and a lot of this team was actually pretty young, which is probably why they got out muscled quite a bit by the Rangers, right? A lot of them were 18 years old and kind of not necessarily ready for the grueling nature of the pro game versus juniors and even college hockey. This is just kind of a step above that. But it does show look, we all hope that the Flyers will shock us and be a great team quicker than expected, but let's keep our expectations where they should be, right? Let's expect that this team
It's a
isn't going to be
process.
very good this year, right? And that it's going to be a process. And if they are not, it shows the need. And you can see it in the lineup, right? We know we added some key elite pieces there on the offensive side, but this team does need beyond Bonk, beyond Andre. There really are no names on that back end at that lower level that really can carry a game. And it really shows that they do need another guy. So if this team is going into this next draft, I would not be shocked if they're going to be looking to add another high draft pick
Yeah.
to make sure they take a 4. Because if they are in that, even in that top 3 mix, that top 5 mix, and a guy like Celebrini is available or Demidov or something, right? You can't pass up on those guys, right? So you'll have to probably take another forward, but you still need to add to that D. We still need a elite 2-way defenseman. We don't have one in the system outside of Cam York at the moment, right? So we really need to add another. We'll see if Oliver Bonk's going to turn out to be that guy. Right now, he projects to be top 4, but potentially maybe he will be a top 2 defenseman. We'll see, but we do need another one of those guys, right? And it showed in this game. And I think a lot of it showed, kind of get the puck and keep the puck in the zone, have big shots on the point. They had some, but not enough. And I think it's where they lack a little bit. Just to remind everybody that's like listening, the rookie camp is not over yet. There will still be practice on Monday. So as you guys listen to this, there will still be a practice at 11 a.m. and then a practice on Tuesday. Then you have that one day off on Wednesday, and training camp will start on Thursday, and that's when the pros come in, and that's when we can get really excited. We will be recording an episode on Tuesday. It'll be out on Wednesday. So we'll be recording right before training camp starts. And then obviously we'll be recapping training camp, the week after. But we do have more content coming. You see, we did this one-off video. We're going to do more of this kind of stuff throughout the season. So anticipate more content as we push into this season. Anything left to add, Vasili?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on kind of the point you made about, the Flyers potentially targeting
Sure.
defense in the next draft. And I think just looking at it, right, like they're going to have the 2 first-round picks and then 2 second-round picks. So I think they're in a really good position to stock up there, right? Where
Or
even
move
if
up.
yeah, or move up with the 2 seconds, exactly. So if there's somebody that you really like on defense, you could potentially target them. So I think they're in a good position to add there. And personally for me, Bonk obviously has that top 4 labeling, but he's very calm and he just looks like he has the ability to slow the pace of a game down in the sense and kind of control it. So I'm really interested to see where his development goes, and
Yeah,
there's
it's
even
very
potentially more
early.
there. Exactly.
Sorry to cut you off, but and I want to preface that with what I said, especially with defensemen. They develop in a very different way than forwards, right?
Yeah.
Forwards, a lot of times you'll see their offensive game. And you'll be like, oh, if we could just refine their defensive game, get them stronger. That is a case with defensemen, but a lot of defensemen, it's timing, right? And strength beyond that. And, we don't know exactly what a defenseman is going to be when he's young. Like you can even get early flashes of it. And again, I use the example of Shane Gostisbehere. When he was drafted, he was like 3 inches shorter than he ended up being. He was like this scrawny, skinny little guy, and he was obviously still scrawny. But to have he turned into kind of a monster offensive dynamo at the lower levels, right? And then if anybody saw that game with Union, he looked like Wayne Gretzky playing there, right? They don't necessarily have somebody like that right now.
Yeah.
And I mean offensively, and I do agree with you. I think Bonk's offensive game could develop more and more. He started off red hot in juniors points wise, but then didn't score a single goal in the second half of the year. So I would love to see that offensive game untapped. It's not going to happen with us in a rookie game, right?
No, exactly.
That's just a touch. Give him a little bit of experience, and that's what this really all was about. It's just experience. I doubt the coaches are labeling players anything after this
Yep.
game, but it does show them that some guys need to be pushed a little bit more in a certain direction. And I really want, again, for me, the biggest takeaway for me was Bobby Brink. I want to see more from Bobby Brink. I know that there is a lot more with Brink, and I
Yeah.
expect it to come out this year.
I think that's a great way for us to kind of end off here. I think a lot of a lot of what these rookie camps are for is really almost like a benchmark in terms of assessment for these players, in the sense of, okay, coaches can identify, okay, well, as you go back to your junior teams, or as we're working with you in the AHL, what do we want you to kind of work on within your games, right? So I think that can be one thing to take away here. Also a benchmark in the sense of, okay, we saw how some of you performed in our development camp just a couple months ago. Now, after this, off season of training, how are you all looking at the rookie camp, right? So I think that's something to look at too. But I agree, at least for me, the biggest takeaways are I would love to see, Forster, Desnoyers, and Brink, all three of those kind of older players in this rookie camp, really step up in the main training camp on the 21st and kind of ratchet the intensity up, because I don't think we really saw them be very intense, albeit this is a different circumstance with these types of games. But
Mm-hmm.
I think for them to make the Flyers, any three of those guys are going to really have to play a lot better than they did this past weekend.
Yeah.
So
And then the one guy who, we mentioned over and over again that could capture Tortorella's attention if he continues doing what he does is Zayd Wisdom.
yeah.
And again, if he brings that intensity and that physicality, we already know that Tortorella loves that. Doesn't mean he's going to be in the NHL. I don't think that's going to
But
happen.
he could be a call-up option at some point.
Right. Especially if somebody in the bottom six gets injured, right? Injuries will pile up this year, most likely, right? At some point during the season. If he continues doing what he does, and I think it'd be really good for his confidence.
Yeah.
But that was the Zayd Wisdom we thought we had. What we saw is that's what we thought we had
Spark
in the
plug
system.
type of
And
player.
to see that he still has it is really great.
Yeah, and I think also one last thing too, just to point out with
Sure.
Wisdom, is it shows that, we always mention it on the podcast, but development is not a linear thing, right? Like you see Wisdom kind of, have ups as soon as he gets to the AHL level. And last season is a real disappointment for him, even goes down to the ECHL. But then, he comes back and he looks a lot closer to himself after kind of going through last season, coming off a shoulder surgery. So I'm interested to see how he kind of builds off of this moving ahead in main training camp as well.
Yeah. And I say this line, I've been made fun of it before, but great players are developed, not drafted. The ones that are drafted, that's an outlier. Again,
Bedard, McDavid, that echelon.
Fantilli, these are outliers. Majority of players will take development to get them to where you want to be.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good one. Vasili, this is a fun one. And yeah, it was good to watch hockey.
Yeah, definitely. Good that hockey's back, and we're gonna be right into the thick of things, into the swing of things here with podcasts coming out weekly as the season approaches, and even more content as we were alluding to. So keep an eye out on the podcast and YouTube feeds and Spotify and all those other platforms. And there's gonna be a ton of content from us coming. So we appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah, for sure. And again, just another reminder to please like, subscribe, share, comment, do everything. It's a humongous help to us. And your support has been amazing. So thank you all so much. We love you. And remember, always stay ready.